Can I get you some WD-40, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think it's my floors are wood, and it causes everything creaks more.
You got to get those rollerblade wheels. That's what I got on my chair.
Yeah.
Rollerblade wheels for the floor, man.
Oh man,
I got those, but then that like messed up my floor because I have like fake wood flooring, like it's like made out of like vinyl. So then like it was more reinforced in like the edges where like they click together and not in the middles. So then it just like destroyed my floors because there was like too much pressure in one spot type of thing.
That is so weird because the reason I bought these is because they were actually destroying the floor that I had, and because they don't make any marks, the rollerblade wheels.
Right.
They're specifically designed to not create marks, and so if it's weight on your floor, though, it doesn't matter what freaking wheel you buy there. But what kind of floors do you have? I mean, there's only like 4 different types of floors you could have. I doubt the real hardwood, though.
No, it's not. It's just like it's like a vinyl knockoff version. So it like clicks together. It's got like a track system.
Yeah.
And it all clicks
It's
together.
a book cover. No.
Yes.
It's a book cover.
Like it does a good job of it, and it like is actually warm versus like I grew up in like a house with like actual hardwood floors, but it was always cold, you know. So you always had to wear slippers or something like that. This is nice. It's a nice combination of the two.
Yeah, we have luxury vinyl plank. Those works pretty good, and then but it's all waterproof. The floors I had before were not, and I had to replace every single floor when we had a water break in the house.
ooh,
Lovely. All right, great banter.
I know, right?
Today on this cybersecurity webcast,
We will talk about floors.
that's right.
all the different kinds of floors. Now let's talk about carpet. Rob, what kind of carpet do you have?
I know a lot about floors for some reason.
I have the cheapest carpet possible.
Hey, that's fine.
It doesn't even have like the mat in there,
hate
like it makes
carpet.
it feel good.
Yeah, no.
It's not carpet; it's just padding.
Yeah. I
Is
got
like,
kids. Like I really don't like. They need to be banged up anyways. Like that's how kids learn.
Yeah,
So it's fine.
that was my rule of thumb with furniture as well. I'm not going to replace the furniture till the kids reach a certain age.
Right. Yeah, I got cats too. So like, it doesn't
Yep.
matter. Like there's just
Yep. Oh yeah, I got those too.
I don't need nice things.
I'm all done with nice things. It's over. Now that I got a kid.
All right, we ready to kick this off?
Oh yeah, let's do
I
it.
thought we already were.
Yeah, are we live?
Well, we're streaming, but we didn't. It's not official until we hit the intro.
Oh, the intro.
Oh,
That's right. I
okay.
forgot how this works. It's been a while.
Yeah, this is just pre-pro banter prep BS.
Floor
Stuff.
floor decor and more.
Yeah, just to make sure we're actually streaming and we didn't accidentally kick ourselves out like last time.
I'm sorry to the 22 people who've watched us talk about floors.
Yeah. Gonna talk about shrimp next time.
Yep.
But we'll find something.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the video. We're
Do
gonna
it.
start. Ralph, you ready to go? Once the video's over,
Yeah, sure.
you're the host.
All right, I'm doing it.
All right. Video 3, 2.
Welcome to Black Hills Information Security, talking about the news. I'm going to be your host today, Ralph May. I don't think John is going to make it today. We have got a all-star
in
cast.
training.
He's in training, right?
Yeah.
We've got an all-star
What is
cast.
he learning?
I don't know. What is he
I
learning?
think he's teaching, not learning. He's teaching.
So he's giving training.
He's giving training.
training.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Black Hills has taught me to be a grammar junkie.
We definitely disrailed that intro. But.
I know, right? I was going. You guys are just like, I'm like,
it was
and
so
we have,
objective.
and
it was
we
so
have.
objective. You were going right in there, and then
I know, but you guys just
it's done now.
railroaded me. It's fine. So, you know what? Just screw the intro. What news do we have to talk about today?
Well, we got a follow up. We'll start with that one.
Sure.
For Rob.
Sure. So the CVE 2021 21551, the Dell kernel exploit, or not really kernel exploit, the driver that is installable on Dell systems or already installed. dbutil 2.3. Essentially, there was a Sentinel-1 put out a vulnerability or a write-up on it. It had a lot of detail, great detail, and we talked about it in the news a couple weeks ago or last week. And then Connor McGarr came out with a amazing, in-depth write-up on exactly how this thing works, start to finish, and a POC at the end of the blog post. I just wanted to bring this up because he goes into each piece of the exploitation of it and a couple cool tricks on what he did to figure out the methods that were used and how they operate inside, going into IDA and stuff like that. So if you are relatively new to, buffer overflows and exploit development and stuff, this is actually a really, really good write-up to kind of wet your whistle on, because it's designed and written in a way that it's super easy to follow. And I just wanted to bring this up because it's a cool exploit, but it's also written extremely well.
Cool.
Interesting. I haven't seen this exploit yet.
Oh man, the great thing about this is that it doesn't have to be a Dell. So Dell, but it doesn't
Dell,
have
like
to be
the singer.
It doesn't have to be a Dell's Dell.
It doesn't have to be a Dell system. Because this is a signed driver, you can essentially install it anywhere and then have execution anywhere after. So it's a persistence method too. And we talked about that last time too, but it's awesome.
This this blog is very in depth. Like Jesus,
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Like I haven't hit the bottom yet. I'm still scrolling.
Yeah.
You're not
Lots of
even
photos.
25% done.
Yeesh.
Like look at your scroll bar.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, there's a little scroll bar.
Oh, I made it to the end. Consumed everything. Now I know it. I'm just kidding.
That is a
All
lot.
I'm saying is you take the time to go through this if you haven't already. It's a really, really good write-up on how this works and how to exploit it.
And that link has been shared in chat, and we'll have it in the show notes after the newscast. All right. So now, do we have to talk about ransomware again?
We love ransomware so much.
Isn't this the ransomware podcast?
The ransomware
Yeah,
podcast.
actually, Black Hills Information Security does ransomware once a week. Yeah. So DarkSide ransomware, right? Who's DarkSide again? What happened? Does anyone know what these guys even did? I don't know. I'm just kidding. I actually haven't read this article about the ransom or about. Oh yeah, never mind. I know exactly what's going on. So in essence, DarkSide ops and kind of their whole operation getting shut down recently. So supposedly, I mean, there's a lot of hearsay is that, the U.S. federal government has been shutting down their infrastructure, shutting down their payment processors and other, people tied to their operation to try to kind of cut off the flow. Now, there's another proverbial thought is that instead of the, U.S. government necessarily going and shutting these things down, that this is the threat actors trying to kind of close up shop. So it looks like they're closing down or just to kind of make misdirection. So what do you guys think about this?
I mean, it's kind of just PR 101 for like at any company or something like that. If you get like to the point where your PR is so bad, like what do? You go rebrand. Like my interpretation of this is they're getting ready to rebrand at some point.
So they're filing for bankruptcy in the cyber ransomware world.
And then rebranding.
Yeah, they're going to be, I don't know, come up with a new name for their operation, something new ops. I mean, who knows? But
Light side.
Light side.
Light side. Actually, it's going to be called Vader Ops.
I was having a discussion with some other people, and the interesting piece of this is that these guys think that their business is legit, right? Like this is their legit business model. And, they were like, oh, but we have morals and all these other things. And I don't know, it gets kind of interesting that, what they were doing and what they were trying to attack, but yet thinking that like this is a, sustainable business model. So it's illegal.
Well, I mean,
It's illegal
just
in the
unregistered.
US.
Yeah, undocumented. That's all. That's the only difference.
So I'll just be the moral police here for 2 seconds.
Do it.
So every country has different laws, right? And every government has different laws, especially surrounding cyber. So like, it is illegal and immoral here, and I challenge everyone to go either live or read up on Chinese and Russian culture, and learn what those morals and ideals look like, because they are very vastly different from U.S. and Western cultures too. So just because we think it's immoral, just because we think it's bad, doesn't necessarily mean that they do, right? So if they're, like they're, yeah, that's a whole psychological topic.
I mean, like, is the
goes back to
question
the winners rate history?
Yeah, is the question whether it's moral or the question whether it's, a business? It's definitely a business, right?
Well, you brought up morality, right? You brought up that it was wrong.
Yeah, it is wrong. I believe that it is wrong, right? Like that they are legitimately the same thing as stealing, right? I mean, let's just get it down to like the simplest thing, or extorting. They're causing mayhem from a digital standpoint, and then charging people for that on the other side, right? Like,
But they think they're Robin Hood in their view.
Well, what? Because they're taking money from somebody? I mean, are they giving it to the poor? Because I don't know if that is happening, right?
Probably not.
I mean,
well,
if we're gonna make that analogy, right?
they haven't said publicly they are, have they?
Not that I've seen.
And even if they do say it, do you believe it?
I mean,
I don't.
Jeffrey, why don't you tell us how you really feel?
I want proof. I want bank statements showing where the money was given to the poor, because otherwise it didn't happen.
Well, that might be more transparent than some of these nonprofits, but that's a whole nother story.
I mean, I think this is an interesting concept, the morals. And I mean, I've been recently doing a lot of studies into like specifically Chinese war doctrine, which is just really interesting. They have some really interesting war doctrine about unrestricted warfare and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like there's some things that even like the U.S. does that might be considered immoral. Like, I mean, we've conducted psychological warfare operations, which I mean, a fair number of people might be like, that's not exactly moral either. So,
Yeah, but let's be honest. I mean, when you start talking about rules of warfare and what's fair and what's not in a war, I think that's a completely different caveat than we're talking about when you talk about cyber crimes and things like that. Because I got news for you. I'm one of those people who believes when you're at war, I mean, seriously, how do you draw the line and say this is fair or not fair? I have a hard time wrapping my head around that whole thing myself.
right. It's just that your war doctrine is still going to be defined by your society's morals to an extent, at least, and they're very different war doctrines in general.
And it changes with every decade. I mean, or sometimes every other year. So we look at things that happen in, World War II that, at the time may have been considered acceptable. Fast forward to the Korean War, and they're looking back and saying that absolutely is unacceptable. I can't believe that was even, allowed or condoned. And it's like, it's a different time.
So
if we're going down the analogy route, then we have to at least point the finger back at us a little bit and like, okay, Infosec used to break into companies and then basically ask them for money and say, we broke in, we'll give you the report on how, if you pay us XYZ amount of money, right? And DarkSide
Sounds a lot like extortion,
right? And for at least a few years, that was that was what Infosec did, right? And in order to get to the legitimate side of things, and I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not okaying this, but I'm saying like we as a industry can't point a moral finger and say I don't know. It's hard when your sheets aren't clean to point and yell at other people's stuff, right?
The cold glass house thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think of like a way you could actually draw a parallel line. In my mind, I'm like, okay, so what they did is X. What can we equate that to that is in another fashion to maybe, show why what they did is wrong? There's a million reasons why what they did shouldn't have ever actually worked.
Yeah. So, I mean, still a crime. They should still be punished for the crime. Not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying we can't, sit on a moral high horse and say, neener, neener, neener.
Well, I mean,
it's so much fun.
We could go down that road for a lot of stuff the U.S. has done in the past. I mean, we dropped nuclear bombs. All right. I mean, literally killed tons and tons of people. And that, I mean, let's not even go there though. Let's just say that, so they shut this down. And I guess the bigger question is, do you guys think this is somewhat of like a terrorist attack? Right. But from a technical standpoint, what do you guys think about that?
Is it a terrorist attack?
Yeah, because they're going for like critical infrastructure, like that idea, right? So like attacking critical infrastructure and trying to take that off. Now,
maybe more of an act of war than a terrorist. A terrorist attack would mean loss of life directly, right?
Sure. I mean, that could. I'm not exactly sure what like the ironclad definition of like a terrorism attack is, right? Like if people have to die, but I'm just saying like attacking critical infrastructure and how that affects the U.S. economy. We ended up having a big gas run. I mean, mainly just because people are hoarders, and we're hoarding toilet paper when we didn't need to. But
if it was an act of war or a terrorist attack, there wouldn't have been a bounty.
Sure,
there wouldn't have been a way to pay it off and come back, right?
Yeah,
and so I don't think the intent is there.
Okay.
Now, is this a carry-on call to say, "Hey, it's possible"?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's bad. But I don't think that it's terrorism. I mean, you can classify it as terrorism, but I don't think the intent was terrorism.
I think it was just to make money. Yeah.
How many of you actually thought of a Die Hard movie whenever you read that article? The first thing I thought of was Die Hard. I'm like, hey, look, this sounds really familiar.
So a fire sale is actually a thing-ish, not called that, but war games are done every single year to see how this would play out in classified spaces and stuff like that. So, like, the U.S. has been thinking about this type of attack for a decade at least, right? So, I don't think we're unprepared for it. I think that we might be unprepared for a individual company having a single pipeline issue or something like that, but I don't think active war / terrorism is something that we're not kind of ready for.
Do you guys think the U.S. government was the ones who kind of shut down their infrastructure, right? Like, so think about all the adjacent things, right? So payment processors, other stuff like that. Do you guys think that they were involved or not?
I'm honestly sure.
That's FBI playbook. Like, go after the money, right? Yeah. So, of course,
take them down in that way. I mean, yeah, that's usually what happens. I mean, the fastest way to stop anybody, seize all their funds, right? Take away, it's guerrilla warfare 101, even though this really isn't guerrilla war, but so.
And Ben Webb in the chat says the Whopper has been working on it for years.
Exactly.
Good old Whopper.
Yeah.
What is the Whopper?
War games.
Wait, seriously?
War games. It's the Whopper computer.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, went over my head.
Just go watch it again. Just 3 more times.
Okay, you have your homework for tonight. You must watch War Games. Write a book report.
Yeah, watch it,
I'm
and then
thinking
eventually,
it's a hacker thing that I wasn't familiar of, but it's a movie reference that I should have been familiar with.
This will be corrected. Sorry to everyone listening.
We will deal with this in our own way.
Yeah, we will take
in
care
our
of
own way. Alrighty.
All right, what else we got today?
I gotta go full screen. Boom. So Microsoft has a problem, apparently. Or no, they're warning
They
others of a problem.
they always have a problem.
Everybody has a problem. Always.
I haven't actually taken a peek at this one. Whose article is this?
This is Infosecurity Magazine.
Microsoft is warning aviation and travel companies for that Revenge Rat and Async Rat is targeting them. That's the extent of this. Like, cool.
Right.
Like, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
thanks for the heads up, but cool.
Yeah. So I mean, particular organizations.
So what are they going to do about it? What does Microsoft expect them to do about it?
You haven't worked with Microsoft much, have you?
Yeah, nothing.
Well, they are giving IOCs to help
PowerShell, please God.
Regism, Intel, Util, yeah, like at least they're giving something. So I don't know. It's nice that they're sharing.
I mean, I'm assuming this is like Microsoft's like Threat Intel or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or whatever they have. They're a pretty big company. They probably have a lot of this sharing some of the TTPs, but some of this stuff seems kind of old, like PDF files.
Is this related to an auto hotkey article?
Auto hotkey.
Yeah, there was an auto hotkey article that I found somewhere else that was actually talking about much of the same stuff.
Don't
Might
know.
just be a rehash.
All right, let's move on then.
Yeah.
Publishing exploits early doesn't encourage patching.
God.
Oh, here we go.
Here's a fun debate.
I am retiring my soapbox.
Yeah, so let's throw some fire. Let's throw some gasoline, me, on a fire and see what happens. Right. So this is the kind of the age-old topic about whether disclosing these vulnerabilities help. Should we be making POCs? I mean, all kinds of the fun stuff around. I just feel like we go back and forth about this, right? And everyone's got like kind of a strong opinion because we talked about this when the most recent Exchange Microsoft vulnerability came out, and somebody was like, "Oh, we put the POC on GitHub, and then GitHub took it down, but they didn't take down anyone else's." I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, if you guys want to touch this.
I guess not. I guess we move on.
We've talked about this a lot, especially when that GitHub one happened, right?
Yeah. This gets to like this whole thing. And like you were talking about, Rob, it's like this moral thing where, are we doing the right thing? And, does it help? And when should we do this? And I think there's a lot of gray area. There's not like a perfect, line that we can draw and be like, well, if we just did this, everything would be perfect, right?
Yeah, it's too nuanced, right? There's too many variables to say this is the policy for all things all the time, right?
There's no one size fits all for this.
Yeah, and we shouldn't publish this early. I mean, Jesus. It's just, and there's so many people out there that can be affected by these products. You don't know where their cycle is, or the fact that threat actors can see this too, and then they use it and just kind of get on the train and also use that exploit. So I don't know. Too many nuances.
All right.
Really kind of burning these articles today, aren't we?
2 for 2.
Ooh. Backdoor masquerading as an ethical hacking tool. I mean, I think it's a pretty decent OPSEC for their rat, right? Trying to blend in and look like, but I mean, I know a lot of security SOCs and stuff, they detect on this and pick up those IOCs just as well. I mean, they're just as much of an IOC, right? I'm not really sure if having it blend in is going to help them that much more. What do you guys think?
Right? Like, why is this a thing? Like, cool. It looks like it might look like the red team is breaking in, but isn't that still a detection? Like, why is that? I mean, okay, so I'll play
So
devil's
what you're
advocate
saying is all the articles suck this week.
here. No, I'll play a little bit of devil's
We can
advocate.
talk
here,
about
right?
it.
So, I will say that there are many organizations that I've talked to that have a lot softer touch when it comes to red team pen test engagements and the tools that they use, right? So they will go not as high and to the right that they would normally do if they think it is a red team tool or a pen test, right? They'll just delete it and move on with their day. So there is some tradecraft in doing that. However, like as Ralph said, like everyone is like all of the threat actors are starting to use pen test red teaming tools anyways. So two and one and none. Like I don't know.
Mimikatz is Mimikatz, man. Like,
right.
Like, all right. So, and that is a tool, but let's just say dumping LSAS or accessing LSAS memory, that process, that is an IOC. That's an alert. That's that's something you want to know about. What tool you use to get there, it doesn't really matter. So a lot of that stuff, just because a red team's using it or doing it, or ethical hacker, we're trying to do the same stuff as these guys, minus the whole malicious intent or the ransomware or other kinds of chaos that comes along with it. But we're going to be using a lot of the same techniques. We'll use stuff off GitHub. We won't necessarily write custom stuff, but we're going to be using a lot of the same techniques. So any SOC or any other detection should be tuned for both, right? Just assume it's bad. Doesn't matter who executed, right? I guess the point is it doesn't make you blend in more.
Shouldn't make you blend in more. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, maybe just.
So we're starting to look. We're like threat actors are starting to look like us. We're starting to look like threat actors. Like there's attack simulation. I mean, okay, little bit of a soapbox. Like red teams have been emulating threats for years, right? And yes. I hate that saying, because there hasn't been a single team that I've been on or interacted with that truly emulated a threat actor. Now, have you run Mimikatz and the other threat actor ran Mimikatz? Sure. Have you executed the exact same command line as another threat actor? Sure. But have you broken into a third-party company to use as a C2 platform so you wouldn't be instantly blocked, and used red team tools to modified red team tools to look like the red team that they were using or stuff like that? Like, no, absolutely not. Right. And so a little bit of a soapbox. I wish more red teams would stop saying they simulate threats, because you don't.
You don't know what it's like. It's hard to make those simulated threats. No, I mean, obviously the rules of engagement are very different.
Exactly, right?
There are rules.
But it's okay. We're still doing good work. Like I just want people to stop saying that they simulate threats, because you don't.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you could try to get close, and to your point, you're not going to be able to do exactly what they did, and that's totally fine, because at the end of the day, the root cause is the root cause, right?
Absolutely.
How did you do this? I mean, there is little nuances and techniques that are similar to how threat actors, but we don't operate in the same space, right? We operate.
Don't have the budget, right?
Yeah. Or the time, right? And I mean, that really is technically the budget. But we don't operate in the same space. We have totally different goals, and so they're gonna be a little slightly different breed, right? While you may think that the goal is just both to get access, I mean, the real goal for some of these threat actors is making money. How they do that, it's going to have a lot of different driving motives and factors. I guess, one thing I did see in this article, though, is that they were saying cyber criminals are now posing as security researchers and trying to, send them malware, which is also kind of an interesting attack surface. But
Yeah, that article a few like last month or the month before was awesome about how they were sending like direct messages and other things. There was actually a really great GitHub repo. I have no idea where it is right now, but someone posted a GitHub repo of a visual code, VS Code repository where if you clone it, just clone it and open it in VS Code. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to open a single file. You just open the VS Code project from GitHub, and it ran executed shell code.
nice.
Like, oh yeah, like targeting developers, targeting researchers, targeting people who work with code every day and work with all of these super complex Electron applications that load 500 plugins are the goal these days, right? Like that's the juicy target.
Yeah, no. And I mean, especially if you're looking at like a bigger threatscape, right? Or using that or leveraging it, like you said, to attack another organization that uses that platform or something. Then we get back into the whole SolarWinds and, third party and supply chain, right? You don't realize that your supply chain doesn't just deliver toilet paper. They also sell you software. So, all right. What else we got?
PC Magazine has a nice PSA for everybody.
Oh,
don't pirate movies.
Yeah, so don't pirate movies over SpaceX's Starlink satellite system. So for
Just
everyone,
don't do it.
Yeah, for everyone who doesn't know, Starlink is a LEO-based sat system that SpaceX has for internet, and they're sending out notices letting everyone know to not pirate movies or torrent over their network. Now, for two reasons. One, probably the bandwidth. And the second one, it's illegal.
And Starlink is a business.
And Starlink
wants to
is
stay in business.
So the big thing that we talked about is this special? Is SpaceX doing anything special, or isn't everyone doing this?
I guess one of the things for me was I was like, was there ever an expectation that that Starlink was going to do this differently? I mean, because I'd never had that expectation, but apparently someone did because they wrote an article about it.
I think because Elon Musk has gotten a bit of a libertarian's reputation, that they kind of expect the freedom to do whatever the heck you want.
That's not exactly how the internet works.
That's not how that
That's
works
not how
at
the
all.
force works.
Yeah.
Or jail works.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
they also assume that like there would be that privacy there. I mean, if you have a torrent,
ISP gonna ISP.
yeah, they can see that right now. They might dive into this. I mean, because there's plenty of torrents that are not explicitly like pirating, right? They can be like Linux ISOs and other things like that. So there's tons of legitimate things. Any file can be a torrent. It doesn't have to be movies and other stuff.
Go ahead,
like
keep saying that.
I'm just saying
that excuse. I have heard that excuse for decades.
Oh, but it's true though. I mean, right now you could go on Ubuntu and download the ISO.
Can't.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you can.
Absolutely.
As a torrent.
As a torrent.
I'm saying you can't. You absolutely can.
Yes.
How many people do? Maybe 100 in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I that's the only way I download it. Anyways,
Less than the other way.
yeah, I mean, it's a protocol, and the
Yeah.
protocol itself isn't illegal. It's just that it gets utilized for a lot of illegal stuff, and then you see everyone refer to the protocol as evil. It's kind of like the dark web, The dark web is evil. Well, not everything on the dark web is necessarily evil, but it gets used for evil sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
not all passwords are evil, but the word password is definitely an evil password, and we should do something about it.
Nope.
I would almost disagree. That I think that all passwords are evil to an extent.
I mean, it's just a protocol, but yeah. So, it's in the TO or terms of service, no pirating. So, don't do that. You probably sign the similar terms of service for all the ISPs that you use. And also your expectation of privacy is probably a little high if you think that, they're not going to see what stuff you're visiting, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I
if
mean,
you-
so this actually is a little bit in reverse. So the ISP is not the one watching your traffic.
Yep.
They don't want to, honestly. Like their whole point is they don't want to see it, right? What is happening is that on the torrenting side, they're all like the MPAA and other organizations, they watch the IPs that are talking to that torrent, and then they do DMCA takedowns or DMCA or reporting on your MPAA. I don't remember the thing, but they send out letters of complaint towards your ISP with documentation on you accessed it this time, this is the torrent you accessed, and that kind of stuff. And that's how they know about it, right? They're not looking at the traffic.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, they're just drawing the connection and being like, oh, it was on this ISP. And in this case, it looks like they were like, oh, it's on Starlink. And they're like, I don't know who had that. And then they got to look through the logs and they got to figure out who was connected at that point and, what satellite it was, IP. I mean, I doubt you have like a static IP on, Starlink, but.
Yeah, I
You
would say
probably
though
do.
that your internet service providers are still definitely monitoring what you're doing. I mean, especially if you're using like their DNS, their private DNS server.
Yeah, they inject ads.
Yeah, they use it to sell ads, like it just like everyone else. But like, no, they're definitely
true.
watching. Like, yeah,
But they're not.
No, I mean,
Okay, so they're watching for analytics, they're watching for ads, they're watching for that kind of stuff. They are not watching for you to go to a malicious website or download a malicious torrent. They aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ocean of data, and here, let me answer this question. What financial incentive do they have to look at whatever sites I'm going to, right? It's as long as you can define that, then you can probably come up with a scenario. But other than that, to Rob's point, they don't care. And the times that they do have to get involved is because someone else spent money to send them a letter, saying, hey, you are doing this or supporting this, blah, blah, blah. And even then it kind of gets, muddled, and they usually just send you a letter that says,
Yeah,
hey,
not just they don't care. They're disincentivized, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
like if they start monitoring for all torrents, let's say they did it today.
Yeah.
All of those would have to be reported to the MPAA or the copyright owners. They'd have to get all of that data and send it off. They would lose all of these different customers that are paying them money. So as a business, like say I'm Comcast, do I look at everyone's traffic looking for malicious torrents and lose 500,000 customers or more, right? And use my resources that I have, a finite amount of, and who I pay. So I'm losing customers, I'm paying people to look into this, and I'm paying lawyers to report it to the MPAA. Or do I do my bare minimum and just handle stuff when it comes in?
Sure. I guess my thing is like I read this article as like, oh, how dare Starlink like
Right.
monitor my internet traffic. And I guess what I'm saying is like if you think your ISP is not spying on you, or maybe spying is not the word, but monitoring, like yeah, like you have fun in your fairy world. Meanwhile, like if you actually want to like hide your traffic a little bit, like there's plenty of resources online, like, but you should go look at those.
Should I use Tor?
Oh yes, absolutely. Particularly for streaming like large volumes of data.
If anyone doesn't look, so I'll just say this: if anyone thinks that Tor isn't monitored more highly than their ISP, I have a bridge in New York to sell you.
It's
That's
probably
great, 'cause New
true.
York's always looking for more bridges.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. Air Force actually helped develop it. If I'm not mistaken, one government agency.
I thought they were one of the primary developers.
Yeah, of this,
But I will like, yeah. Even though they are, there's no backdoor in it. I don't think. Like,
no,
okay.
you're just saying yes. If a ton of malicious or a ton of illegal activity is happening on this network, that's where I'm going to go look, right? I don't go to, the really the low crime areas looking for people to commit crimes. I go to the high crime areas. It's just, I mean,
Yep.
That's just what it is. So, all right. So Starlink.
We have a war of the worst movies happening in chat. So
I know, right?
do you believe? So let's talk about this for 2 seconds. Do you believe Swordfish or War Games 2? Do you believe War Games 2 or Swordfish is the worst movie?
I haven't seen War Games 2, so it must be the
Automatically
worst. That's like, if I haven't had even like an inclination to go watch War Games 2.
Like,
we
I
know
honestly
where
didn't
Ryan
know
sits
War
on
Games 2
Ryan-
existed. So
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know there was a War Games
I didn't even
2.
know that either. I'm like, really? I feel really bad right now.
How? Really?
Yeah.
I'm the only one here that can talk about the subject because I've seen all of them. Great.
I mean, I've seen Swordfish, probably some of the worst hacking scenes ever.
Yeah, but we've talked about that Swordfish also has the best explosives I've ever seen. So in a prior life, I did explosives as my primary job, and so building out explosives and the chemical makeup of each why am I losing words again? Each blast and what's the stupid word for it? Anyways,
Kaboom.
Yeah,
Incendiary.
Each bomb, but there's a better word for it. Each one of those, I haven't seen a movie do the exact yield and blast and radius and yield and like color and all of that as well as Swordfish did. So they might have had the worst, hacker, technical advisor ever, if they even had one. But they
spent all that money on the explosives expert.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever their explosives expert was fantastic.
So long story short, Rob loves the explosives and Swordfish.
Swordfish was great from that point of view. Like, it was a really great movie if you talked simple, like, incendiaries.
Actually, it wasn't a bad movie, but I mean, the hacking
wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It was entertaining.
It was entertaining. Are you not entertained?
Entertaining.
Oh,
Speaking of entertainment, I've got a article here about Counter-Strike.
Oh.
Yay.
Who doesn't love game hacking?
So this was really another great write-up. Like, goes into depth on how this exploit works, how you can find servers that can be exploited, because not all of them can be, and it's not. And I'm probably misremembering this, but it's not actually exploiting the server, but actually the remote end of the people who are connected, right? So you're getting to their systems instead of the server. So you're loading a game, you're loading specific configuration and changes to the game that you've made locally, and then you're exploiting the other people who have joined that game.
Nice.
What you're saying is people cheat in these games.
It's not just cheating. Like, you're getting a shell on a box you're playing a game with, where you can, like, literally say, task kill csgo.exe. Like,
you're signing up for remote code execution and loving it too. Like, you're like, oh, I'm
loving it.
I'm playing a game. This is so much fun, but you're actually getting compromised.
The only virus that you want to go back and download yet again.
Yeah, exactly. Invite your friends to come play with you. This is the virus.
Oh, yeah.
wow.
I can think of some uses for this, because I actually know quite a few friends that played this game.
It was patched. It was reported through HackerOne, so it's not as cool anymore. But
disappointing.
I was going to invite
somebody
a bunch of
doesn't
people to play CS:GO tonight.
Yeah.
You should if you want to actually freak out your friends, send them this link and then say, hey, let's all join a CS:GO. Hey, like, first what you do is say, hey, let's all join for CS:GO tonight, you then paste them the link to this article and say, and then delete it like a minute or two after, so they've clicked it, and then give them the link to the server.
Perfect.
It's just
Wrong link.
Sorry, wrong link.
Wrong
Let me
link.
fix that.
Sorry. That's
So-
awesome.
You
So
and
when
I
you-
treat our friends very differently, Rob.
Actually,
man.
Rob, I can honestly say that is definitely something that I would do, because back in the day, when I had a really good friend of mine, we were living together, and we used to play escalating jokes on one another. And so the one that took the coup de grace was when I actually gave him a disc, and he put it in his computer, and it proceeded to have a little box up on the screen that said your hard drive will be deleted in so many seconds. Hit OK. And he proceeded to chase the box around the screen the whole time, and then it rebooted, and it actually did delete his whole hard drive.
Was this on a floppy
Jeez,
disk?
that's
boy.
messed up.
Yeah, he was really mad at me, and he just started screaming at me, and I'm like, dude, all you had to do was hit enter. It was already highlighted.
You ransomwared your friend.
I did.
That's great.
What a pastime, man.
I will no longer be opening email attachments
Yeah.
from Jeffrey.
Or was it a floppy disk or a regular CD at this point? Don't age yourself, though.
It was a 3.5 inch.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh! At least it wasn't
So
5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was not happy with me.
So one of my favorite things that happens at CDC is there's the on Windows systems there's this thing there's this April Fool's joke binary that you can download from a couple different websites called boo.exe. And for those who've never played Super Mario, Boo is the ghost that follows you around if you have your back to it. And so it freezes when you're going towards it. And so boo.exe will start up a little boo on your screen. And when you move your mouse away from it, it follows you. When you move towards it, it stops. Now, every time you click, a new boo shows up randomly on the screen. The fun part is when there's so many that you can't click under it. So if you get to the point where there's nowhere on the screen left, you can't click under you can't alt tab, you can't go to another screen. It is always on top. The always on top.
Yeah, it's got topmost applied. Yeah.
Yeah, topmost applied. So every time you try and click, you're just making it worse, and it's great.
Oh, I think I already know who I'm going to do this to.
Just giving him ideas. He's going to go around and ruin someone's day. With this exploit, so could you run? You could run remote code, like execute commands on those boxes once they got on there, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you can have it so that everyone who joined it, and I apologize. I haven't read all the way through this. But the gist of it, as far as I skimmed, was that you're basically loading a DLL on their side, the one that you have on your side. And so whatever DLL you want to have,
sky's
is
the limit.
essentially, yeah.
Man, what a fun game!
Yeah, and the fact that it has anti-cheat means that it is actually running as admin.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, anti-cheat is pretty much has to be at almost the lowest. I mean, I almost feel like they're full rootkits at this point, right?
Yeah, they are.
Fun
If
times.
they could get by with a full rootkit, they definitely would try.
Yeah, right. If they get a Microsoft sign, they probably do. Who knows?
So all you have to do to make this super fun is join a server, and then so CS:GO is based on the terrorist setting the bomb and the Counter-Strike, the CS defusing the bomb, right? So you make it so that the DLL or their side detects when whatever team you're on stops them from doing whatever they can do on their side. Because you can, with a DLL, you can have it move the mouse, you can have it hit arrow keys. Whenever you get close to the bomb and your counter striker, I forget the name, but you're the counter team, it automatically pushes the back key and just holds it down.
Game hacking is a big industry. It's actually a very profitable industry too.
I
Creating
mean, this
cheating.
is beyond that. This is like,
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely beyond that. Yeah.
you're controlling
I
the
had a
mouse and
game genie
keyboard.
in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, Game Genie's awesome. Did you ever have a Game Shark though?
No,
That's
just the
that's
genie.
the next level. Game Genie was great, but Game Shark was the next level because you could modify memory. So the Game Genie modified memory, but you had to like type in a code to specify the game and the cheat you wanted to use. The Game Shark allowed you to specify memory locations and what you wanted to put in that memory location, and so that's the power. That's actually what got me started in Infosec.
You just wanted to win. That's what happens.
That's the game for me. Like figuring out. Honestly, my mom hated it. She's like, "How are you even having fun playing that video game? You're cheating at everything." I'm like, "That's the game for me. Like figuring out what cheat works best for the game to make it so that it's super easy. Like that's the game."
I remember the Game Shark.
Game Shark's awesome.
I think I remember reading an article about AI stuff. They were using that to win games, right? To play games. Actually, it wasn't an article. I take it back. It was the movie about Go, the game. There's a what do you call it? Like it's
Isn't
not a board
that the game you can't cheat at? Like Go's a game you can't. Like there's no way to cheat.
No, this isn't cheating. They wrote or built AI to actually play the game. Okay. And it's like way above and beyond what chess would be, right? When they made like IBM made the Deep Blue to beat the Grandmaster Wizard, whatever.
Go is super complex.
Go is super complex, right? And they built AI, I guess you'd call it, right? Artificial intelligence to actually play the game, and it actually started winning, and it became like this big thing in the movie about AlphaGo. Yeah, there you go. That's the movie. Pretty good, or pretty very interesting movie, but it became this big thing against like machine versus human and who was better and stuff. So definitely go check it out. But I just think about that when you think about like bringing artificial intelligence down to like the lowest level. Something like a video game, right? What it does is like if you want to teach a computer to win a video game, it just tries all the possible outcomes looking for the one that gives it the best results. And what they found is that sometimes when computers are doing this, they start finding novel ways to do stuff that humans have never really thought about because they didn't try, the millions or billions of iterations it takes to try to get there. And they start finding, for example, they'll find cheats in games. Because they'll send these algorithms to play a video game, like something simple, and they'll start finding the cheats because that's what gets them going. So it's kind of interesting. But they're playing a lot of iterations. So, All right, video game hacking. That's what we're on. All right, what else did we have for today? Was that it?
Plain text and
I got two more things.
Oh, two more.
Offensive pH. So process hacker. So there was a talk at ZiffCon today. I actually gave my talk as well called Jurassic Malware, where I talked about all the ways that you can run virtualized malware and run like Poison Ivy on like Windows 10 just fine. But anyway, ZiffCon, there was another talk there, and his name escapes me, but the gentleman talked about offensive pH or his new tool, basically where it or new technique where basically he takes a old version of Process Hacker. So Process Hacker does amazing things, lots of different things.
Yeah.
And he's using an old version of Process Hacker, which has assigned driver. So just like we were talking about with the Dell thing. Mm-hmm. So Dell, you have to exploit it, right? With Process Hacker, it actually has the ability to dump memory, the ability to set hooks, to do injects, like all of this stuff that Process Hacker does on purpose to help blue teams look into different processes and And what they do, he's actually using an older version. And the reason why he's using an older version is because it was some of the functionality was removed in later versions. But essentially, this driver allows you to like dump LSAS. You do have to be admin. You have to be, but like EDRs don't have
they're user land
protections, right? Or So all of this is kernel land and kernel mode specifically. And so all you do with this is basically install the driver, which is signed and authenticated, and then you say, "Hey, I need LSAS memory. I need to remove all hooks from everything permanently." Like there's a ton of things you can do with this that is really kind of neat. Like the whole talk he went into, and the video is going to be online later. Went into why each step he took and the different tools you can, or the different hooks you can remove. Like I think in the video he had Carbon Black installed and essentially told the process hacker driver to unhook Carbon Black from any new processes or remove the hook, and then he ran Mimikatz directly, right? So like this is super powerful.
Yeah, anytime you can get into kernel now, it seems like it's raising the game up for executing your malicious code, especially with the EDR, right?
Yeah, you do have to be admin. Like that's but
well, yeah, but like you always have to be admin to like do any
right.
of these good stuffs. Like you have to be admin. Like that is, I mean, I'm okay with that caveat, right? It's the other one where you get detected because you ran something that was in user land and the EDR hooked your process, and it's looking at that, right? Yeah. I was just on an engagement where I had that same issue, just trying to dump Mimikatz, or it's not even run Mimikatz. Just think about it. Just accessing LSAS, right? And bypassing that detection or the hook, right? And there are ways to do it, but it is a little bit harder. And anytime you can get in the kernel, that's where you're going to really make headway. So you also should be able to bypass credential guard as well when you're in the kernel.
Yeah. And Process Hacker has a ton of functions, right? Like not all of them are in the driver, but like a ton of functions that have all kinds of use. And this repo actually has the driver in it, so you don't have to dig like he did to go find it in the older version. So it's really nice. Speaking of credentials, though, we have another article by Noopy who talked about dumping plaintext RDP credentials from SVC host. Now, this was talked, I think his name's Jonas, talked on Twitter by Jonas, then picked up by Gentle Kiwi, Mimikatz guy, Benjamin Delpy. He built it into Mimikatz in very short order. Like this has only been a couple days. And essentially what's going on is SVC host, when you RDP into a system, SVC host will sometimes, depending on the OS and depending on a few other issues or settings, will keep your clear text credential inside of RDP core, SVC host.exe's memory. And so in this, as you're seeing on the screen, you'll see that the username is hacker and the password is Noopy69420. And he's essentially doing a strings on it just to get that out of memory, which is super simple. And so like there's no memory injection needed. There's no this is just reading of memory of SVC host, a specific SVC host that has the RDP DLL loaded in it. But yeah, like clear text credentials again, yay, win. This is on Windows 2019 latest edition. This is on Windows 10 latest edition. If you are RDPing into a system and someone else has admin access, your credentials are available to them sometimes, and like you don't have to decrypt them. Like it's literally just running memory and finding them.
This is kind of hot for two reasons, just the things I was just talking about, especially the credential guard. If you had credential guard, you would still get these, right? Because they're not in LSAS, which that would be what credential guard is protecting against.
Yep.
And then second, sometimes W Digest and a couple of the other stores, right? They don't have the clear text. Okay, even when you can dump LSAS, this could be that Fourth Avenue, right? To look for that clear text.
NTLM, Kerberos tickets, those are all great, but having a clear text is super powerful, way more powerful than just having other hashed forms of the credential.
You can move laterally with those NTLM hashes, but having the clear text is when you start logging into other things that don't accept NTLM, right? They're not part of that process. So definitely useful. That's pretty cool. I'm definitely going to be using that on my next engagement.
I will say that there is one small caveat to his blog post. He searched for the password in the memory. You are not going to know the password, at least during engagements. You're not going to know what the password is. So the username is there. So you have to find the username, and then hopefully on the next line that's the password. Right. And depending on how you have strings set up and depending on your word choices or the password, like you may not get the clear text in the way that you think it if you're just using the strings method. Mimikatz automatically parses that correctly at the right offset. So you're going to get the right stuff. And there's probably going to be tons of tools that do this in the future. But if you're just counting on what Noopy posted with strings, your mileage may vary.
Get that old quote in there, some other special character, and get all confused.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I still love the old Juniper backdoor where it looked like opcodes, right? Like that is seriously that was like just eye-opening to me, right? Like if you put your password in a format that looks like whatever you think the person's going to see, or whatever tool you think the person's going to see it in, right? Like IDA, right? If you put it in something that your password actually looks like something like opcodes in IDA, then you're going to go under the radar a lot longer than if you would have had your password, say password 1 or whatever, right?
Looking at the output in that one screen, I'm assuming the name of the workstation that he's doing this on is the workstation they're RDPing into, which is the desktop dash and the number string. Yep. So, I mean, if you're all in the workstation, you know the name of the workstation. So at least you already have a good idea of what to look for in the file to try to at least put you in close to the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it'll probably be spring 2019, 2022 or whatever.
Or
I mean, like you've got that. Yeah, you've got something to go off of. It'll just have double bang with like a dash or something in it. So
The other important piece of this is that he's doing this on a Linux host, I think, because it has the -EL. And what that does is looks for UTF-16 LE based strings. And that doesn't happen very much in binaries except for strings that are used for user input and user output. So that actually cuts down on the strings output. So if you're trying to do this with strings in Windows, I don't think it has the EL option, and you're just going to get a ton of strings. So pull it down to a Linux box, look at it with the EL flag. You're going to get a lot less output, and it's going to be easier to look at this stuff.
Have we confirmed this is a Windows feature?
It's definitely a Windows feature. What are you talking about?
I mean, you had to save it somewhere. I guess this is where it went. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Well, that's the last one.
All right. Well, I guess we can take this off. Thanks everybody for joining. Another exciting edition of Black Hills Information Security, talking about the news. We'll see you guys later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Later guys.
Later.